Hi guys, Aceface back with another video for you. Today I've got another battle report. Should be a lot of fun. Got two interesting armies and something quite new. So I've brought back out a towel and we are doing some preparation for the London GT. So I don't think this will be the list that I take, but it should be good to see what it does at this level. So this is ETC rules rather than ITC. So it will be interesting sort of seeing how the towel fare under a new rule system, and yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. So the mission we're playing is Big Guns Never Tire as the primary, and it is Deadlock Maelstrom as a secondary, and that's pretty much it. The Maelstrom cards are a bit stripped down to make it a bit more basic, but on the whole it's pretty much standard Maelstrom with obviously your standard mission in there. So we've got 6 objectives. We've got one over here, we've got one in the middle, and we have another one up top here. Over the other side of the board we've got one over here, and we have, as we said, one in the middle. We've got one over the far side there. So that's how they are laid out. It is this Dawn of War style, so that's kind of the board, and I will now go over armies. Okay, so for Tau, leading the line is the Ethereal. He has got the Honour Blade, just got a few points to play with. Other than that, it's pretty much basic. I have 2 troops choices of 2 Kroot, both infiltrated, so one over there and then one over here in this ruins here. And then I have for elites, I have a standard Riptide. He has a burst cannon and plasma. He has got interceptor and doesn't have Fear No Pain. Just couldn't afford the points. Then I have in the second elite slot, just down here, we have the Ghost Kill. He's got the fusion setup, which is not the right way to take him, to be honest, but he's there anyway. Again, no upgrades on him, just the standard really. He's got the secondary weapon as a fusion as well. Then in the fast support I have 2 Wyvaras. Both of them have got the Fear No Pain as always. And then we've got, as the Lord of War, the Supremacy suit, and he has got the coaxial ion side guns. So it should be fun to see him. He's caused trouble already on the channel. He annihilated the Necrons for a turn or 2 before getting tied up. But we'll see how he does today against a completely different challenge. And then last but not least, I have the drone formation. So we have the 4 units of marker drones with all their goodness, and that is my 1850 points. In fact, it's 1850 and 49. Sorry, 1849. So that's the Tau Force. So yeah, should be good to see them out again on the channel. And now I'll go over the Demons. Right, and I'm facing up against Demons. It's a Tzeentch Demon army, very nasty. and something quite different because it's using a lot of the goodness from the new updates to the codex. So leading the army is a herald on disc, and we have actually 4 heralds, all with lots of different goodness, all sorts of different abilities there, all kitted out. It's a ridiculously big, nasty Death Star. So the key ones in there, I won't go through every single power, but there are basically a couple of rolls on the D there. So 2 of them have D shooting, one because he knew all the powers from from one of his gifts, and the other rolled on it. So we've got 2 lots of D there. We've also rolled really lucky on the Warlord trait, combined with his robe, has given him a 2+ in Von save, which not nice. So he's got a straight away, without having to do anything, he's got a 2-up re-rollable save. So that's straight away going to be pretty tricky to deal with. There are 4 units of 12 horrors with the first detachment, and then obviously we have Fate Weaver, why not, and we've got Benacor again, and also have the blue scribes, and more horrors with Benacor. So yeah, it's hard to keep track of everything, to be fair, and hopefully that sort of makes it quite clear. But I'll kind of go through it as we go through the game. But more or less, yeah, loads of nasty psychic powers, very resilient within this star. But obviously it's going to depend on those psychic powers. We know that Fate Weaver is going to be a threat, so yeah, should be good. Yeah, this is going to be quite an interesting game for the Tau. At the moment, the Demons are going first. I did get on my Warlord trait the +1 to steal the initiative. So in a minute we'll come back and see whether we can do that. If we get that, it could be interesting. 2 big nasty guys on the ground in Fate Weaver and Benacor, very much out in the open, and we can do a lot of damage to them. If not, it's going to be quite resilient. See how we can take down these nasty demons. So we'll go on to the seas. Okay guys, just so a little bit of clarity, as it might have been a bit confusing for you. So basically the 2 CADs, one CAD Fate Weaver, Benacor, the other CAD the 4 heralds and the scribes, 2 units of herald, 2 units of horrors with each. So hopefully that makes it a bit clearer as we go onto the seas. Right guys, you can't see off camera, but the Demon player is sweating heavily as he's about to see this come out, because if I seize we could be in for a short game. Let's go for it. No, 2. And we will go on to Demon turn 1. Right guys, so end of Demon's turn 1, an eventful turn, the majority of it in the psychic phase, as you could probably understand. So as far as the Maelstrom cards that were drawn, so Ascendancy, having to get 3 objectives. Objective 4, Assassinate, so basically kill a character. No prisoners, so kill something. Hungry for Glory, go for a challenge, and then hold objective 5. So objective 5 over here on my side, and objective 4 obviously here as well, were always going to be tough to get. So what happened? Well, very aggressive move from Demons, all coming forward, really right up to try and get as much purchase on as many of their psychic powers as they could. Everything came forward. These horrors also came forward. He has a special ability from one of the heralds. Basically, automatically a unit can be brought in from reserve. It doesn't stipulate that it has to be turn 2. So 1 came in straight away. Those horrors dropped in straight away here. There was a unit of 12 that came in there. So that was the movement phase. Obviously the flying guys, so Benacor and Fate Weaver, both went into the sky, which was to be expected. The Grimrar was put on Fate Weaver, and was successfully achieved, so no problems there. Psychic phase 6 was rolled, so like 32 dice in the end. Oh, I should say that I did decide to intercept the horrors that came down here, which is why they were reduced. I intercepted with 2 units of drones, as well as, and then the Riptide opened up. Did manage to take out majority of the unit, but unfortunately 4 still remained there. Into the psychic phase, so a lot of buffing of their own unit as far as generally for a survivability point of view. Benacor casted invisibility on the little Death Star, successfully getting that off, and then I'm trying to think what else he did. So then the other guys up there, the Blue Scribe rolled 6, turned into Lord of Change. Really great opportunity to get this beautiful model out on the battlefield. This was kindly painted for me by Caytons, so I'll put a link down below. Do check his channel out. Beautiful and nice to see it on the board. Bit frustrating as it's another monstrous creature, but it's good to see on the board. So that was most of the buffs. Then it was more aggressive play. So the guys down here did their Nova Power, which was so it was a D6 strength basically, but it hit everything within 9. So did some work. Thankfully, it was only strength 3, so I managed to kind of get away with that a little bit, which was very, very handy. But it was AP4 and ignores cover, so everything he did get through, he was killing. So that caused quite a lot of grief over here. Some Psychic Shrieks went into the big guy. 2 wounds were taken of a combined effort from both Fate Weaver and Benacor. We've got, as I said, the Death Star is invisible. Then there was lots of flickering fire. Basically, the demons were targeting to get rid of these drones. So a lot of flickering fire went onto these guys, reduced them down to just the 1. More flickering fire from this unit of horrors, and from this horrors, reducing this unit down to just a 3, to this unit to the 1, and to this unit to the 2. I should say that is also a combination of the warp flame as well, because this unit passed it, but that unit and the unit over the far side failed it and lost more of its unit down to that. So these guys do now have a 6-up for no pain, which is quite nice, and so do this unit. So I hope you're keeping track of this. As I said, it's pretty confusing with demons, but that's what you get. So the D shooting was Fate Weaver tried to put his D onto the big guy, but couldn't get it off, even with his reroll, just kind of ran out of dice. And that was more or less it. But yeah, so lots of shooting, as I said, all focused around the drones. All the drones stayed in one piece, just about, but just hanging in there. All of them have lost their numbers, and everything is up in the sky, and pretty invincible almost, because we've got lots of 2-up saves, and lots of very good invons. As far as the objectives, the demons do hold 3 objectives. So in the GT missions, rather than D3, they get 2. But other than that, they didn't manage to get any of their objectives. So even having so many, just didn't manage to get any. Should have really killed 1 unit. The odds would have said that would have happened, but it didn't. As far as the drones themselves, this unit here is running away. So that should go down soon. But the rest of them stay firm. So that is that. Yeah, so interesting turn, very, very dangerous. The demons causing a lot of grief, but all the big guys are still intact. How much damage they can do to these guys, we will have to wait and see as we go into turn 1 for the Tau. Okay, so end of Tau, turn 1. It's been brutal. So from my objectives point of view, I got Secure Objective 6, I got Big Game Hunter, Assassinate, Blood and Guts, Witch Hunter, and Objective 1. So Objective 1 is in the middle, where the Heralds are, so that was always going to be pretty tough. Witch Hunter, I needed to kill a Psycho, which is great against this army. Blood and Guts needed to kill something in the assault phase, so that was a target of mine. Assassinate, kill a character. A big game hunter, kill a monstrous creature, and then objective 6 right over the other side where the other horrors were. So actually some quite achievable objectives, so we tried to get as many of them as we can. Didn't do great, but let's see how we got on. So basically the Riptide that couldn't really do any shooting this turn because he intercepted, turned around to try and take out the horrors. The big guy came forward just to get in a good position, give my options, keep my options open to what I wanted to go for. These were the only drones really could do anything that could shoot, so they stayed where they were just to keep themselves in good position. The two White-Eyes jumped right up to try and do some damage and make sure they get in range of that objective. And that was more or less it. So in the shooting phase, the Ghost Kill didn't do anything really. I took a pot shot with a fusion at Benacor, but just couldn't get it out. The Markolites also tried to hit Benacor, again couldn't roll any sixes there. Then what do we have? So the Wyvaras both focused on the horrors, reducing them quite considerably and taking them off and out of range of the objective. There are still a couple behind there, unfortunately, that I couldn't really get to, and it wasn't worth trying to assault them and not being able to do my jump move. So that was kind of them. The big guy chose to shoot at a few different targets, so I used the burst cannon into the Death Star because that I decided I'd probably charge, and then the arm guns went into Benacor, and so did the smart missiles as well, smart missile system. And then I used, instead of doing D, I used the big gun right over the top into the horrors that were there. I didn't roll particularly hot on that, took out 4 I think in the end, but not too much damage done. The arm guns I couldn't get past Benacor, even though I did land a few, saves were made. He did lose him 1 wound from a perils a turn before, so he's on 3 wounds, but couldn't do any more damage there. The Kroot also unloaded on him, again not doing any damage, so that was kind of that. Then into assaults. So the Riptide and one of the drones charged the horrors, and the big guy charged into the Death Star. The Riptide did take 1 wound off the horrors, which was quite handy, but we could not make them lose enough in the combat to make them fail their instability enough to kill them off. So they stay firm in there, which is frustrating. I thought that would be my first blood, and in fact not first blood, but that would be my kill points. I didn't get that. And then in come the big guy. The heralds can't actually hurt the supremacy suit, even with all their tricks. So it just pretty much went to me, and I didn't roll hot on the stomps, so no damage done. So they kind of stay there for another turn. It's pretty much at 600 points wasted tying them up, but they are extremely dangerous. It keeps them in one place. As much as they can buff themselves, it stops them hurting the rest of my army as much and running around grabbing objectives. So I think ultimately it's the best thing to do. It's the second time I've done this in a game, guys, and you saw me do it exactly the same against the Necrons. The stomp is so powerful, it's almost worth sacrifice. So we'll see whether that pays off. It also means we're contesting that objective in the middle of the board. So obviously in the assault jumps, I jumped the Wyvara in range of that objective to hold that objective. But that was it in a nutshell. So lots of objectives I could have scored. In fact, I only scored the 1. So we both scored 1 objective. The Demons did, however, get first blood because I did run off the board with that drone unit, giving them first blood. So Demons just ahead at the moment, but very, very kind of cat and mouse, very neck and neck, and we'll see what happens as we go into Demons turn 2. Okay, so bottom of turn 2 for Demons. The extra objective that was pulled was to get this objective over here, and the Demons had another unit coming from reserve. Tried to deep strike in close to that, scattered off the board just to go into ongoing reserves. Movement wise, Benacor came down to the ground, and so did the Lord of Change. Fate Weaver continued his move over here in the sky. Obviously the Death Star was in combat with the big guy. The horrors over the far side, the remaining of them, shuffled up to get close to the Wyvara, and then these horrors just moved a little bit closer to make sure that they were in range to do some damage as well. So, psychic phase. Fate Weaver used his shenanigans to dispatch the ethereal and the drones. Well, the drones were dealt with by Benacor first, so Fate Weaver could concentrate on the ethereal, killing him. So obviously that was key, because you've got points both for Slay the Warlord, and he had the Assassinate card as well as it being an ethereal, so that was worth 3 points on its own, so pretty crucial there. Obviously the drones, as I said, went down. Then what happened over here? So everything else pretty much focused on making sure they could take out the drones. So the remainder of the drones over here were taken out. The horrors over there had a go, and again combination from sort of Benacor doing damage as well. The Grimoire was successfully put off on Fate Weaver, so he is again on a 2-up. Rerollable, and invisibility did fail to go. Oh, so Benacor did get it off, so Benacor is invisible. But obviously no invisibility on the Death Star, just depending on the 2-up rerollable save of the Warlord. So that was him, so he did successfully get that off. Other than that, not really a lot. Then we went on to summoning, so there was some summoning over here, so the Plague Bearers dropped in, quite close to that objective, to cause something for me to think about, and Plague Drones were also summoned as well. So a lot of summoning going on. There was even an attempt to summon a Herald. That was a failure, but lots of shenanigans happening in the psychic phase. Then obviously nothing happened in the shooting phase. By the way, just a side note, the warp has been calm both times, and that one could have been a really bad roll, but used Fate Weaver's re-roll to re-roll it, and came up with the all-important 7 to keep the warp calm. Then in the shooting phase, nothing happened really. I think kind of the drones sort of shuffled to try and get their foot into terrain, and over there that was kind of that. Assault phase, the horrors that were left over there charged in against the Wyvara and were cut down on the Overwatch from the Flamer. And then the assaults carried on. So over here, really no one doing really any damage at all. The Riptide did take out one, but then on the demonic instability, double 1 was rolled, so that one that died came back. So that's kind of stuck there, which is a real annoyance, because Benacor will obviously storm in next turn and will rip the Riptide apart if he's still there. So that's pretty dangerous and not where I want to be. In the most important part of the turn, though, definitely happened over here. So again, the no damage from the actual attacks, but then the stomp, I did roll a 6. I rolled 3 stomps, and then with that I then managed to take out 2 of them, and obviously with a combination of the other stomp as well, reducing the heralds just to the Warlord remaining and taking a massive hit on that warp charge. So that will be really quite beneficial. I would like to free him up, but he's down to just 1. So the wounded Warlord, well, he's not wounded yet, but his unit is obviously gone, so that's huge. But with the objective scored, so he needed to try and kill 3 units to try and get 2 objective points for that, so got those. Also assassinate as well. So yeah, so lots of points. In fact, he's racked up a grand total of 8 points in all to my 1. So it's really against the Tau, but we have put a massive hole in the army. So we'll see what happens now. Wyvaras are going to be a bit neutered this turn. Riptide's obviously tied up, and so is the big guy, but we'll just have to see how we get on as we go into Tau turn 2. Right guys, end of Tau turn 2. A strong turn for the Tau. So as far as objective wise, I pulled behind enemy lines, which is handy because the Wyvaras were already pretty close to the edge of the board, which is pretty handy. So movement wise, most of my units were sort of penned in, not a lot I could do. So the two Wyvaras shunted close to try and get within range to put their torrent and their shooting into the Lord of Change, and the Ghost Kill tried to also lend some support to that. The Kroot kind of got themselves on that ruin to make sure that they could decide whether they wanted to go into the Plague Bearers, the Plague Drones, or lend support on the Lord of Change. Over here, the Kroot carried on moving up just to try and see if they could put some pressure on to the Horrors. So then the shooting phase, we tried to put everything from this side all into the Lord of Change, and we did take a couple of wounds off him, but he did jink, so that helps us a little bit. But it would have been a lot worse if he didn't jink. I think it was the right decision to jink. It's kept him definitely in the game with more wounds. And so that was all that side of shooting. Over here, the Kroot that unloaded into the Horrors caused some damage. There is just 2 Horrors left. So then we went into the assault phase. So the Riptide over here didn't do any damage at all, but the Horrors did take out the drone, causing me to take a break test that I did pass, thankfully. Otherwise that could have been quite embarrassing. But yeah, so he hanged in there, still not able to get rid of those Horrors, and that should mean that Benacor, if he wants to, should mince the Riptide. I have put the free up Invon, which will might be enough to keep him alive, but that's a tall order against Benacor. The other 2 Wyvaras also successfully passed their Nova charges and have also gone for the free up Invon, just in case the drones decided to go for them. So the other bit of combat, the big guy, as you can probably see here, again I had 2 stomps and I rolled a 6 on one of them, so I took out the Warlord and killed that unit and freed myself up, which is going to give the Demons something to think about next turn. So I started to rack up the points. I've made a bit of a closing. I did get my Assassinate, so I killed a character. I got Blood and Guts, I killed something in the assault. I killed a Psyker, so I got Witch Hunter. I got behind enemy lines. And obviously I got the objective 6 last turn, so that pulls me up with including Warlord up to 6. So it's 6 to 8 to the Demons at the moment, but it's a close game, and now Warp Charge are reduced. It's going to be a lot harder for the Demons to do so much damage. It's going to have to come down to now see what they can try and grind out potentially and keep on those objectives as we go into Demons turn 3. Right, so end of turn 3 for Demons. It's a funny old game. It's quite difficult to call. So again, more objectives needing to score. So needing to score the objective over here, where the Kroot was on, and also obviously still this objective. So they had to be key focuses. So obviously these guys dropped in, so they came in and managed to get onto the objective where they needed to be. So from a movement point of view, Fate Weaver came over here, still flying, keeping safe as he can, and the Lord of Change came over this way towards the Ghost Kill, and Benacor came round to try and approach the Riptide. So that was more or less that. The Horrors obviously staying firm on their objective over there, and as I said, the other guys coming down on their objectives. So, and then the drones, the plague drones, surrounded the Supremacy Suit. Psychic power is a lot more neutered because there's a lot less warp charge, but still managing to do a lot more damage through Psychic Shrieks into the Supremacy Suit. He is now just down to 4 wounds, so he is over half strength down, so quite a big deal there. But he's still alive and kicking at the moment. Other sort of psychic bits going in just to try and buff everything, try and keep everything survivable. So invisibility wasn't used, and that was more or less a lot of fails this turn, a lot of unsuccesses, but did manage to get the Warp Surge on Benacor to bring him up to a 3-up invuln, which is pretty good, because as we'll see soon, he potentially could be in trouble. So so that was that. Then as I said, in Salt Phase, the Lord of Change charged the Ghost Kill, causing grief there, and he did actually cut him down. He overran him in the end, which is always going to really happen. The Supremacy Suit stomped out the Plague Drones, and then Instability killed the remainder of their unit. Over here, even with a 3-up invuln, I failed to do any damage back to Benacor, and he ran me down, so the Riptide went down there. And that was more or less it. Of course, there's the battle over here. The Plague Bearers were just proving a little bit too good for the Kroot, and they chased them off. The Kroot are alive, but running for the hills at the moment. So Daemons scored that objective, and they scored the objective over here. So they do lead 10-6. I do though have 2 Wyvaras very high on wounds, and the Supremacy Suit free to wander. So the powerhouses in the Tau army are still very much alive, but we've still got some demon threat. Fate Weaver in the sky and Benacor on a good save, but we'll see what damage we can do. We've got potentially a lot of manoeuvrability advantage now, because if he goes in the sky now, he's going to struggle to get down before the end of the game. So he's kind of a bit restricted. He's maybe got one more turn in him to kind of move around, but Tau still in a strong foothold for a supremacy of this board, but with the points still sitting firmly with Daemons as we go into Tau turn 3. So end of turn 3 for Tau. A really good turn. Everything kind of came together. So I got the objective cards. So I needed to get the Scour the Sky. So I needed to kill a flying monstrous creature. Really good for me. I needed Overwhelming Firepower, which is kill something in the shooting phase or kill 3 things for 2 objectives. And then I also got Ascendancy, so 3 objectives need to hold. So great cards for me, absolute perfect, because with 2 of them being 2 points for grabs, gave me a great opportunity. And with the big guy out on his own, he was able to kind of do some damage. So we kind of moved him back, kind of give him a bit of distance between Benacor. He'll still get to me if he wants to, but we'll put him in ruins and we'll try and make him... There's no point in coming at him, because if he got the Warp Surge, and in the Warp Storm it was +1 invuln, he was on a 2-up invuln. So the reality was I wasn't going to kill him, unlikely, unless I got the D shot on. So he moved out of the way. We had some horrors in front of us, so they were obviously a target, and obviously the Lord of Change. So rest of the movement, the White-Eyes kind of separated. One went over there to try and deal with the horrors that were in that ruin, and then the other one bounced forward to try and do some work on the Plague Bearers. Shooting phase, both the Wyvaras hit their mark. So the one over here cleaned up quite a few of the Plague Bearers. There's only 3 left there. My Kroot did not re-rally though, so they are still holding that objective. And then the White-Eyed over this side cleaned up the horrors quite easily, and obviously he's jumped down there to make sure he can hold that objective. Then the big guy, as you can see looming in the ruins, he finished off the Lord of Change. He then took out the little horrors in front. He used both his smart missiles and the D on Benacor, but saves were made, no damage done. So Benacor still stands firm. He only has 2 wounds left, but still he's a threat, definitely, without a doubt. And Fate Weaver obviously is still full strength. So I have 2 lots of Psychic Shriek that are no doubt coming into me this turn. I've got to be prepared for that, and that will make a big difference. I need to have a lucky turn for sure, but we are up now. We are on 12 points to the Demons 10, so it's pretty close. The next turn will be really, really crucial for the Demons. Again, they're hemorrhaging models and units. They've lost a lot of the manoeuvrability on this table, but still potential summoning in there with Fate Weaver and Horrors around. So it's far from over as we go into Demons turn 4. Right guys, so that's the end of turn 4 for Demons, and a really bad turn. Awesome opportunity. The card that was drawn was the Big Game Hunter, and you actually got 2 points, obviously D3 normally, but in this GT mission you'd get 2 points for killing a Gargantuan, so obviously that had to be the huge target. Also, the Demons were still hanging on to this objective as well, so that was key to get that as well. So the big target was to bring down the big guy. So Fate Weaver stayed in the sky. Benacor jumped up here to secure this objective. Obviously he's on the deck. A lot of shooting, so as far as the psychic powers shooting, first of all Terrify was cast on the big guy. I managed to deny that one, making sure that my leadership was not reduced by 1, and then in came the Psychic Shrieks. Both of them I got extremely lucky on, got away with it, and Benacor actually perilled again, rolled a 1, but did pass its leadership test, which was a bit of luck there. That would have been absolutely disastrous. The D shot came in, not managing to get that off, and that was more or less it, to be fair. Invisibility was cast, so Benacor is invisible, which is going to help him definitely, as he is only on 1 wound, and that was more or less it. So I got off completely clear, which was, I was expecting to lose him, and that potentially with it might have been the game changer. As it stands, I still have an awful lot of capability with this guy, causing a lot of damage. Invisibility will potentially keep Benacor alive this turn, but we'll have to see. I need to try and do some damage. So the rest of the turn, so in the assault phase, the Plague Bearers charged into the Kroot again, beating them convincingly in combat yet again, the Kroot running off for a second time. This time they're just down to 2 now, so unlikely to see any more of them. And that was it. So yeah, the battlefield is pretty quiet now. There's not much left on here. What is still on the board is very crucial and key. Every loss now is absolutely vital. I've got a few cards to pick up now, so if I get the right cards, I have a 1 point swing at the moment. But we're starting to get in the last gasp of this turn. This is the end of my turn 4. This will be my turn 4. If I can do some damage here, we could really have the Demons on the ropes as we go into Tau turn 4. Okay guys, so end of turn 4 for Tau. Another really good turn. Things are really swinging heavily for the Tau now. I drew no prisoners to try and kill something again. I got extra points. I could have potentially got a lot of points if I killed a lot of units, but there's really not many left. And I don't have very much to shoot with, to be fair. So the big guy stayed where he was. This White-Eyed bounded up to get the other side of that ruin to deal with the Plague Bearers, and this guy stayed more or less where he is. The Kroot moved up to try and get close to that objective as well to give me options. Shooting phase, pretty much the White-Eyed dispatched the Plague Bearers just about, got rid of them, and then the other White-Eyed was out of range of everything. The Kroot took some shots at Fate Weaver, got 1 through, but then he saved it, so no problems there. And then the big action came from the big guy, so I took pretty much everything at Benacor, and all I used was then the big barrage over onto the Horrors. So all the shooting, in fact all it took was the smart missiles and the burst cannons, and Benacor obviously had 1 wound left. I rolled quite hot, and unfortunately the smart missile just caused too much for him, so he went down, which was absolutely key. Then the big barrage came down on the Horrors, cleaning out most of them, leaving just 4. So for the Demons, they do have just Fate Weaver and the Horrors left, and I managed to get obviously another objective point from there, and I have a lot of board supremacy. So it's pretty much all over now, but we will go on to Demons turn 5, and potentially the last turn of the game. Right guys, so end of the game. So we played out the whole of turn 5. Daemons have conceded, but wow, what a game it was. So we'll just run over the last turn. So for Daemons, basically there's not much to do, but Fate Weaver decided he would try his best to try and bring down the big guy. So he used both the D and the Shriek into him, both proving unsuccessful. So both getting off, but the Shriek just not getting the leadership high enough rolls to be able to take any more wounds. And then the D, he didn't roll a 6, so I did pass my saves on those. And that was more or less game over, to be fair. I then had my turn 5, so the Wyvar was adjusted basically to get in range of all the objectives, so I could score maximum primary objectives. Kroot moved over onto that objective, and then we put every bit of shooting into Fate Weaver, as well as using the bombardment from the big weapon into the horrors. We cleaned them up, and we did manage to take 2 wounds off Fate Weaver. If he dropped to the sky, we would have assaulted him and tried to take his last 3 wounds off for the tabling, but he didn't. He stayed in the sky, and we called it there. So absolutely epic game, loads of fun, really could have gone either way. In the end it was quite a convincing win by the Tau, but if I hadn't stomped out his Death Star and hadn't got quite lucky in the second to last turn, avoiding getting shrieked out, with Benacor and Fate Weaver had the ball to themselves without the big guy, it could have been so different. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this battle report. More coming very soon. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.